Hi guys, everybody in chat. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for Elizabeth for all the massive effort that she has made to put this thing together and didn't lose it at all. Not at all. Just made it happen.
Thank you.
Highly commendable behaviour in this. The universe is watching, Elizabeth. The universe is watching.
Good, good.
Yeah.
My ancestors will be pleased, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, you just nailed it. Your ancestors would be pleased.
Yeah.
Well,
That's who we're doing it for, yeah?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I'm going to turn myself off and leave it over to you, okay?
Okay, guys. Well, a lot of subjects talked about tonight. We're going to spin this up a little bit and we're going to talk. If you just take a look at this image here, okay, we can see San Francisco in 1906 on fire. And what we're going to talk about today is that America was built on top of a ruined old world. Okay, and the evidence is there. And what I'm going to present tonight to you is probably the best evidence that I have found. There are some things in this post which defy logic. Actually, don't defy logic, just completely show that the official historical narrative is in fact lies. And in my experience in this life, if you tell one lie, you're going to tell another lie. People work that way. Why not them? So I'm thinking that it's all a lie. And I'm thinking also that history has been fabricated. The eradication of the previous civilization, which we regard as Tartaria, was erased. And this is how I propose one element, I can only go one element at a time, was carried out by who I propose is the Phoenicians. So American city fires. If you don't know about this, it's going to blow your head off to find out that most American cities have in fact burnt to the ground during the 1800s and some in the early 1900s. Curiously, none later. So it all stops like, say, 1905, no other major American city burns. Just strange. So erasing Tartaria from history is what we're going to talk about. Now, throughout the 1800s and the 1900s, American cities were devastated by massive fires, wiping out their districts and destroying grand architecture. You can see some of the old Tartarian architecture in the background of this picture, and advanced technologies that I do think that were around in this previous world has just been erased and taken out of the narrative because they have the libraries. See what they did there? Libraries. And they got the history books and they got the education system. Well, to be honest with you, a lot of people now know how all of this is carried out. A lot of people have read the Handbook for Society, 1984. So they do know by now. So these were deliberate resets, I believe. Okay. I don't believe, because belief is something else. I understand from what I've been researching over all these years. And there was an erasure of Tartarian advanced technologies. Now, they haven't disappeared, it's just the elites are using them and we are not using them. Okay, free energy. It's all about the free energy they don't want you to have. Otherwise, where would they put the meters? So anyway, what we're looking at here is pictures of San Francisco 1906. Now, there's movies out there, there's documentaries out there, and the official historical narrative is there was a giant earthquake. Now, if you know anything about how earthquakes are measured on the Richter scale, something around Richter 8, it just grows exponentially. So this was supposed to be what they say the most massive earthquake imaginable. Okay. And then the rest of the city was destroyed by a subsequent firestorm, some deliberate, caused by the army, destroying all buildings. But if you can see this picture here, right, and this is in April the 18th, 1906. But all the buildings are in situ. You can see the buildings haven't fallen down in any earthquake at all. And there's this massive smoke screen in the background that is blocking whatever is going on behind that smoke screen. It's a very curious affair. You can see buildings here, all in situ. Nothing is earthquake affected. This is the most telling picture I think I found in years. That should come up in an old book of San Francisco earthquake photographs. And I was just browsing through them one day, and then I was just staring at this, and I thought, what is wrong with this photograph? And then it struck me. Where's the earthquake? The whole city is evidently still in place, yet the city's on fire. You can see this skyscraper here in the background. This is the famous call center on Market Street. and it's on fire from the top, and the fire doesn't start from the bottom, sort of maybe suggesting, that the fire started from above. Okay, now all of that city is there. You can see there's people out in the streets. God knows what they're thinking. But one thing you know for sure is these buildings, if you follow this subject, they seem to be mud flood affected, the older world. Okay, we're going to get to what we think is going on. Now, many cities, I'll give you a little list. I can't go through them all because obviously that will take forever. I'm going to show you some film in this as well, which is quite mind-blowing and highly spooky. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. So yeah, other resets that happened with the same MO as this is in 1889, the Great Seattle Fire, mystery blaze, leveled most of the city. City then completely rebuilt. Right. Well, if you look at the photographs of Seattle, they're all big old Tartarian buildings. It's the same narrative for every city. It gets destroyed, it magically appears. It gets destroyed, it magically appears. And I just don't mean America. I mean a lot of places in Britain as well. You could have this narrative for. I'm just finding out this week, Tokyo. Tokyo has a really bad earthquake in the 1920s, destroying the whole city. The photographs look like Hiroshima, yet the architecture that was in Tokyo before then, fully Tartarian. I was like, my God, I missed that one. So, other American fires, the Great Fire of Baltimore, 1904, 1,500 grand buildings. Guess which ones they were? Completely destroyed, wiping out most of its historical architecture. And San Francisco this year, which is cited as being an earthquake. Unfortunately, the photographic record showing it's not an earthquake at whatever stage of this event this photograph was taken up. So how is the photograph taken is another question, okay? Is why are we so high up? Is there a skyscraper over by here? Are we on the top of a church? Well, no, I think this is taken from a dirigible, which is probably tethered to the ground. And this is all because, like most things in history, especially in the modern day, you can see this happen in real time, is things are orchestrated. And this would have been no different, This is an orchestrated event. There's all sorts of things going on. There's a robbery going on. There's an eradication of a large population and the high strangeness that comes along with it, which I'll explain along the way. Excuse me. So, yeah, no earthquake. You can see here a street looking down San Francisco. Sorry about the size of the picture. But the buildings, they're all in situ, not later on. So all we can say by that, just by these few photographs, is the city wasn't destroyed by an earthquake. It was destroyed by fires. Fires that were deliberate. Now we're going to talk about dust. Okay, now things that turn to dust. I'm going to start here with one of my favorite little mappages. That was really good talk, Jordan Nuttall. I love the effort you put into things. It's really hard to read stuff out in front of people too. So well done you. This is the Cosmographia. So it is early 1500s cartography. Okay, so it's supposed to be accurate. This is supposed to be a map that's presented to the population, and it's supposed to be an accurate representation of what is happening in the world. Only this is the Mediterranean, as you can see. I'm sure most of you recognize the boot of Italy. So this is the coast of North Africa. So Egypt's over by here. This is Algeria, Libya, etc. And as you can see, it's green. And it is green and pleasant. And not only that, there's a giant mountain range called Kong Mountain Range ripping right the way through it, which is not there in the modern day. So something that has been mapped on maybe, I don't know, I got dozens of maps with Kong Mountain Range. It's no longer there. So something turned into dust. And that's what we're going to get to in this post. There was an event that happened, I think, one of these resets in the past that took out the classical world, which I think, what they call Noah's flood, Atlantis sinking, is probably along the lines of the gates of Colossus collapsing. What I mean by that is where the Rock of Gibraltar is across to Africa was probably all dry land in the Mediterranean, and it's burst and all the seas come in. There's your biblical flood. And then, you got the archipelago of Greece and, this the insanity of all these tiny thousands of islands. I think that is the event that took out the classical world, because these buildings look like they've been hit by a giant wave. This gap here, okay, the gates of Colossus. I think that these were closed in the past. This probably burst through. There's lots of people that say Atlantis is in Cadiz. Lots of people say Atlantis is in the Dragon's Eye down here somewhere near Malawi. But I'm not actually sure about that. But it's a good idea, because there are, Plato put Atlantis out here, but other people have cited it down here. where Barbaria is. Like you see Barbaria there, Barbaria, Tartaria. Operationally, it sounds the same, doesn't it? Yeah. So this is North Africa, guys. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you all know geography, and you know that this is a terrible, hot desert where you have to go and walk for thousands of miles to reach an oasis before you die. We all see the movies, but not in 500 years ago. It is a green and pleasant land filled with, which I could only guess is Moorish architecture, I would say, little palaces, all over Africa, everywhere. In Africa is these palaces. You get the same story the world over. It's all of this, which looks like fairy tale castles, a bit like the Disney castle. There's the Iberian Peninsula, okay, populated by the Moors, as well as North Africa, Barbaria, etc. But you can see this, you know, could be Gothic really, but lovely architecture all over the world, which is the same. And everywhere is green. Okay, you do not see too many cold places 500 years ago. So this is a map looking down. Now, myself, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm a big purveyor of, I think that this place is a level and stationary plane. In the physical sense, I'm also in the mind of that I think there's some sort of technology at play, and that this place is subject to edits, which is what's going on with history, and probably explains the Mandela effects and a whole number of things. Is they just take things out of history real time, probably happening on a daily basis. And as for missing populations, well, I'll get to that later. So yeah, this map is not corresponding with what you see in the modern world. If you look above Europe, above Britain, you can see that there's just a land mass the whole length of what is the Arctic Circle. No snow, it's all green, but many people think that there's Hyperborean, 4 continents here in the north, which there may well have very well been. Maybe it's been iced over for the last few hundred years, and it's just starting to thaw out with the permafrost as well, showing the civilizations that were there before. Maybe that's what the whole big panicky deal is about anyway, is that the snow's melting. Not that that would rise sea levels, because this place is infinitely bigger than they tell you, and water will always find its level. It'll just go out that way somewhere, you know, it's not going to flood anywhere. You know, if you don't believe me, just take a look at the Plymouth Rock. Okay, that's supposed to be in 1620, and what, it isn't even a centimetre above, like all these years later. Yeah, whatever. So that's not what's happening, but the weather is definitely changing. Okay, I've been here long enough to see. I can't even remember the last time I've seen decent snow, guys. And when I grew up, months and months and months of snow, iced in, big icicles every year, just phased out. And now it's just non-existent. We're getting warmer. What we see here is technology of your world. I've been talking about this for years, organs, and I've talked about the science. I covered this quite extensively in my book, The Holy Grail of the Flat Earth. I go into like Fache's technologies, how they work, which we'll talk a little bit about later, which many people think is like an electromagnetic type of what I do, technology, and organs. So Wilhelm Reich, he made cloudbusters to make, produce rain, etc. But he was using orgon. And orgon sounds like organ. And organs, well, they're good for your organs. Yeah, these are beneficial to your health. Chimes. Chime is chi me. Yeah, the word says chi me, because that's what it happens. You bang a gong, you bang a bell, you bang a chime, you blow one of these, which are essentially Fache's. I'll get to that in a minute. And you get a vibration, a frequency. Now, it's only frequency that changes this place. It's our frequency that changes this place, our mental frequency to how we respond to certain events. If we, create Panic at the Disco and all of that, it just, to me, from my personal experience, it seems like that exhibits in my exterior world for some reason. So I've learned as I've got older to keep it chill and let it be, and don't get involved mentally. And I'm of the world, but not in the world. Let them all carry on without me. I'm just passing through. This technology was left over from the old world, guys. Okay, these churches that are litter the world, these Gothic churches built by monks with copper chisels. Yeah, they were not founded. They were found, and they found these inside. So they basically put a keyboard underneath them. But what you want to draw your attention to is they are all pipes, and they're all bundled together. Okay, these ones are out directionally, so to get the sound out into the church, to make them people feel groovy with all them awesome vibes mixed with color. Color also have a frequency. These windows I've been talking about for umpteen years, and they correspond with certain frequencies, certain cymatic patterns, which is just mind-boggling science, considering these are supposed to be, monks, but they understand like geometry and, advanced alternative sciences, because they're not going into quantum mechanics or anything. But yeah, so these organs were technology. People used to go into these healing centers. Okay, and these windows are treated with, some say mercury, rose-tinted windows as well. I've got a book on rose windows. It says there's a certain amount of lead content in them, and also the bits that join them are lead as well. There's not only conductive proper, it allows for resonance to pass through the glass into the outside world. So even people walking past these churches will feel the organ's vibration and will feel a benefit from it. Now, this technology of bundled rods put together, emanating a vibration, a sound, a frequency, I've proposed is an ancient technology that goes right back to the classical world. But look at these examples. Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. A little guy there talking a load of stuff about who even cares. And then there's somebody does but they have removed certain musical notes from the churches over the years because they were too beneficial for us. You see this window here? Also, somatic frequency. And there's a reason these look like speakers here, because that's how they'd work, like speakers. Yeah, check that one out. Imagine what that sounds like. I've seen some monster, monster organs. Land of Cathedral, and there's one in Hereford Cathedral. It's one of the biggest in Europe or something, and you're standing there and literally you can just feel everything inside you vibrating. So they tell people, yeah man, that was God did that made you feel fantastic. Put some money in this plate, thanks for that. People are like, wow, this God stuff's really awesome, but it's not the technology that they did at all. It was them. So as you can see, churches, or the designers of these churches originally knew all about somatics. We've all seen somatics experiments, haven't we? I could carry one out myself. I've got iron filings. I can just create a vibrational charge in a steel plate and alter the frequency to different, hertzes, 432, 555, whatever it is. And they're all exhibited here, which are in church windows. So the frequency is altered as well in the church organs. See? Also, the flip side of the coin, there's actually three sides to this coin, because there are three sides to a coin anyway, is the flip side to this groovy healing technology of bells and tuning forks and, as I said, fasces, organs, is the destructive side. So we all know the narrative from the Holy Bible. Not that I've ever read it, because, my mother said, don't read the Bible, Matt. Everyone who reads that goes nuts. Jericho. So they paced around it with their hair off for days on end, banging drums, also known to cause a vibrational frequency that can also cause earthquakes. Apparently, in the Napoleonic Wars, there are instances of earthquakes or tremors being caused by hundreds of drummer boys beating a drum at a specific frequency, which caused, like Tesla's earthquake machine, which was also an oscillator, a drum, but that would drum so quickly that it would shake the world apart. Vibration and frequency and sound can disaggregate matter, can make it fall apart. You can turn it to dust, guys. Dust is what you can turn it to, which is this, the Medusa technology. Now, I wrote a book concerning, if you want to find out what the technology is behind this fasces, the most important weapon in reality, as far as I'm concerned. But basically, you've got one of these in your microwave oven. It's a magnetron. It's exactly the same design, and it's in your microwave. So everyone has one, and they are proper dangerous as well, because, if you put it in the wrong hands, they can just melt metal. I've seen examples of that happening. So Medusa in mythology. Stare at Medusa, you turn to stone. Okay, so if you've got a reflection, in a shield, you can stare at the Medusa, like Theseus did, sneak up to her, dodgy business, all of this sounds. So chop my heads off, which I think they should have had a little discussion. I think that's jolly and unnecessary. A lot of terrible violence happening in antiquity. I'm not down with all that. So the Americans and the British and everybody, well, they're still doing the Rome thing. I know they said that the Rome fell and stuff, the empire. But it hasn't really, because they got Congress and they got exactly the same Senate and everything that the Romans do. So it is exactly the same. But if you look at senature, you can see that either side of the Masonic pillars, because they probably all are, is one of these batons as well, which I also think is a form of technology, which I've covered with the eagle and the wings open, which is a decode for active electromagnetic charge in Martin think. But also you can see the two clear fasces. And what is weird about that as well is they're both facing one another, okay, in mirror image, okay, adjacent to one another, not side side, but facing one another. And they have S's on them, like SS, like on you get on German uniforms. SS on dollars. SS is this binding around the fasces is also a decode, which I've covered extensively in my book, for live active charge, which makes these a deadly weapon. You can see there's evidence in the past year that says they were using electrical fasces to shoot down Zeppelins in Paris in World War I, but also the other way as well, Zeppelins. So yeah, the fasces was used and adopted by the fascists as their emblem. Also before then, Napoleon's emblem as well was the fasces. But you can see Benito Mussolini here, off in Abyssinia, a dictator of Abyssinia, which was Ethiopia. He took it over to nick their holy relics, apparently, like namely Ark of the Covenant. Who even knows? But anyway, so you can see these two guys in front, these Africans, they're carrying them on their shoulder, but this is symbolic. Obviously, you can't charge these and zap any walls down, but the originals, they do. So a lot of these AI images kicking around, but it gives you a nice idea of what Tartaria might have been like. I got this vision in my mind, and the way I think about things is if you envision a reality, then it's more like, they got like literally mind controlled everyone into like sucking, everyone's like, grizzle, wow. And then that is the world that everyone is going to get. And that is exactly what's happened. It's like such a grumpy place, really. But if they turned that around into a positive and thought, well, I'm going to envision a really clean and wonderful environment, free of vandalism and dog poo and all of the rest of it, guess what will happen? I know. They just hijacked consciousness into negative thought form. Anyway, back on with the story. I envision Tartaria to be as sumptuous and luxurious as it can be, because we wouldn't have been giving all our time up to hard labor like they proposed that we did. More a life of art and doing what you want to do with your life, rather than giving it up for whatever they say it is 1% elite. This is what's happening now, which is dozy. I can't believe everyone's just consenting to doing that. It's just mind-boggling to me. Just tell them where to go and don't do it. Everyone walk out. They used to in the 70s. All out. We'll white strike. Time to go away. Anyway, dropped at your house by a train. You can imagine the inside of these places, the textiles, everything is just the best. Also, weather modification now was no use me even bringing that up now. The British government has admitted that they're actually doing this stuff, as everyone can see when they look up at the sky. It's whited out. They are blocking the sun so that we don't bake in the heat, because it's going to get hot, apparently. That is what's going to be happening. It's hot because it's cold because it's hot, Greta said. Anyway, so I heard our guy, I seen Guy, talking about this, the vacuum trains. And I agree with him. Yeah, I think that there's no need. If they're using vacuum trains before steam trains to suck people around in these underground vacuum chambers, it makes perfect sense to me. And I was infinitely impressed with them in department stores when I was a kid, man. They used to have like Alder's department store. And they used to put all of the receipts, all the money in these tubes. And they go, where does that go? A good question. Where does it go indeed? But they had some of these going, from Chicago to New York, stockbroker stuff, unimaginable ticker tape off underground, shooting it through before the trains were apparently choo-choo or anything. Just insanity. So yeah, I've been proposing for a long while now that I think that the Tartarian balloons were the transport of Tartaria. Hindenburg psyop made it unfavourable to people to want to go on a balloon, saying it was dangerous. Prior to that, everyone thought it was really groovy. On this balloon here, up to 8,000 people could travel at one time. So they weren't worried about killing 8,000 people or it being dangerous in any way. So there's that. So the Great Exposition's also a big part of the narrative, isn't it? I'm not sure if anyone's covered that tonight. Maybe they should have been. Brilliant, these are. But what you get is, this is the Victorian era, apparently, is these humongous, massive wrought iron expanses. Now, you can argue to yourself, how the hell are they putting this up in the day of horse and carty, which apparently they are. But I think that these were initially for keeping balloons in, yeah, and that this is what they're showing in the Great Expositions, is there's plenty of room for balloons, which I think they would have been like balloon depots. I think you would have been dropped off directly at, you know, if you were going to New York, directly in the center of New York. You know, this is one of the expositions in Stockholm, and it is absolutely beautiful. This style of architecture I talk about constantly, with these 4 towers on each corner and a dome in the middle. I call this 4 angels technology, and it is there's a torus being generated around each, which amplifies chi energy into the center dome, and it's to gather and harness and, you know, usable electrical forces, as they were doing. If you look at this image here, guys, this is aerostat, proposed in the past. What they're doing is like Tesla technology, if you like, guys, is they got little things on the balloon here, which, like the knobbly bits you see on cathedrals, doing exactly the same. So they're capturing a charge, and then they're generating the charge down into the station here for usable electricity. So static electricity being gathered, because it's the higher up you get, the more electrostatic charge potential is up there. And like Tesla said, all you got to do is tease it out. Aerostat, you'll do it. Excuse me. They're using balloons as early as Benjamin Franklin with his kite, for example. He did ballooning too. So I think that was the narrative before the old planages, which, you know, they went in a quantum leap of technology from 1906, the Wright brothers, the wrong brothers. And then, you know, 10 years later, they're like long-range bombers in Germany, dropping bombs and stuff in the First World War. It's just like, wow. Some sort of progression. Wow. So yeah, balloons and the old world. That's a nice little image. I'm guessing that is the bit of Paris, which is boarded up in the background because it is the Hotel de Ville that's been completely destroyed in 1871, excuse me. The very same year as San Francisco, the Chicago fire, which we'll have a look up in a minute. So yeah, usable electricity gathered from balloons. So they're probably then balloons that were going through the air anyway were generating their own electricity. And they had great halls, restaurants, you name it, luxury, everything, hotels, in them zeppelins and them balloons, probably all free electric, generated while you were up there. Producing rain by electricity and X-rays as well, but that is also out there. HARP is out there. People pretty much see that happening. You get all them weird wavy forms in the clouds. It's like ripples on a beach. That's what's happening. So yeah, this is what I envision the old world is. Yeah, your balloon taxi drops you off at your house, and this is why all over Paris and all these places all over the world, New Orleans, you see these wrought iron balconies. Are they really just walk-throughs from your window to go and admire outside, or were they, you know, did they have a real purpose as a drop-off station to drop you straight off to your place, which sounds fantastic. So back to the fasces. Now, I think this is the culprit for all of these American city fires we're going to look at in the next few minutes. If I do get like running away with time, because Elizabeth, fasces. So bundles of copper rods in this case, guys, and they're bound with brass, as you can see. Okay. Now this can be electrified. It will create a magnetic field, a torus, all the way around it, okay? And they've been using it through antiquity. You can see examples of fasces in old battle pictures and plenty of iconography. Now, I'm just going to, there's no volume with this, show you a little bit of film here, guys. Excuse me. This is me, Flat Earth British, YouTube. Now, this is, if I just stop it there, if you haven't seen it before, one of the most fantastic bit of films you will ever see for antiquity. It was recorded in 1906, April, by the Miles brothers. Bit of a story behind all that as well. But I have proposed that this is 100% fabricated. These are actors. These are people in a street scene, acting, knowing exactly what they're doing, okay? Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because it shows the old world still in situ. It shows, if you see that line at the middle there, electric trams, 1906. And this is Market Street, San Francisco. The reason I'm showing you this, if you don't know, It's because 2 days later, everything you see in this picture will be completely destroyed and turned to dust. Okay, and they say by an earthquake. I've just shown you, I think that is proof that that is not the case at all. This was deliberately touched. Right, check this film here, guys. Observe the natives of San Francisco. Okay, some of them, now that car there, he will go up, he'll go in a circle, he'll come back round again, so will the kid on the bike, because all is set up. Now, people are going to try and kill themselves this day for some reason. They take suicidal leaps across this tram, which the camera is attached to. A guy with a baby, there's all sorts of strange things going on. Just people waiting for it to come past. A little guy from what looks like Chinatown, maybe. Okay, so everyone knows this is happening, but there is a little outing of people expecting the camera. So there's really strange goings on. If we just get further down Market Street, now that tower you can see in the distance is the ferry terminal, the terminus, okay, where people come in off the ferries. That woman, she's going to step on there. Go on. Anyway, that car's going back round in another circle. So 1906, any other city in the world is not actually showing millions and millions of cars at 1906. There is none in other cities. San Francisco has all the cars in the world. This kid knows. Unfortunately, after the earthquake, there's no cars on the street, almost as if they brought all the cars in just for this shoot. And I do think it's humanly possible because Cecil B. DeMille directed Cleopatra with 250,000 extras. So I think it is doable to pull something like one street off of movie, especially in this day and age. So they do really stupid suicidal things as well, like that boy on the back of that car if he fell off, you know, probably Kurt. So yeah, there's that boy giving the game away anyway, I think. So yeah, if we just move on a bit, I'll give you the reasoning of why I'm showing you. So there is Market Street. Okay. Ooh, there's a horse, there's a car. I'm sure everyone's going to be fine. Just anyway, watching this video is pretty nerve-wracking. I'm going to show you of that. So let me just get up to the terminal itself. Let me just, it's only 1 minute. Okay, still got half an hour, that's groovy. So as you come up to this terminal building, there's some weird people. I've posted about them before, like a weird couple of nuns that look like zombies, some strange basket casey looking dude, and other things going on as well. It's really strange. Anyway, if you have a look at that ticket kiosk, it's next to this pillar here, and the pillar is on the right hand side. That is not the case in the black and white photographs. It's almost as if we're looking at a completely different realm. This could have been lying about this film, and this could be in the older world and what it looked like, because in 2 days later it looks like this. Plus, that ticket kiosk is on the opposite side, next, the left-hand side column. People say, well, it's a reverse image, but I'm afraid it's not a reverse image. Also, on the Terminus Center itself, it says 8/86 for the date. So, make your own mind up about your calendars. But let me just show you this. Now, I've got a series of these films. They are the most mind-blowing films that I've collected to date. And what they show is the same street I just was showing you. I know it's hard to believe, but it is. And coming up to the City Hall as well. So what you see is all the posts that carry the telegraph, all of the trees are in situ. But yet all of the city has been destroyed by fire. So you might want to argue, how come the buildings are gone? How come the wooden poles are still remaining? And who comes along and cleans all the streets up after all this affair anyway? Same in World War II. It's like, did they just have masses of diggers come in and just dig it all away? I don't even know how it's done. So anyway, this is only a couple of days, as I said, after the terrible event. But you can see all the trees are all happy. So I'm not sure what's going on with all that, except I do. So coming down to Market Street. So what you find is I have proposed this, that all ancient civilizations and masses of people that have gone disappeared off the face of the earth, which they would say, oh, well, it was the Black Death. It killed 70% of the European population. Unfortunately, the dead aren't there to verify that, and we can't find the dead. I mean, all of the people that went before us, they should have been trillions, are all missing. So have they been edited out? Or prior to some sort of surface event, were they taken elsewhere off this world, maybe to other places, which I propose beyond the ice wall, or, which I think, underground. Underground in vast cities, underground in vaults, and they don't know anything really. And then a generation passes, and then they come up, and they're expecting the world to be, you know, paved with gold maybe. And this is what they find. These people, right, are all coming off this ferry terminal, and they haven't got a care in the world. Now, after a major event, right, I don't think, you know, they let all the population in because of epidemic rules, and because there was an epidemic, apparently bubonic plague, following the San Francisco earthquake. So that wouldn't make sense. But yeah, you get loads and loads of people all coming into the city to do what exactly? Well, probably to repopulate it, because the previous population are no longer there. Also, there's supposed to be 4,000 dead. Yeah, these people, you know, they're just not really bothered. They're all in their Sunday finest as well. In lovely clothes, actually, most of them. I don't know where they get their clothes done. So yeah, that is exactly the same picture I just showed you in the colour footage only a couple of days later. Sort of defies your imagination, doesn't it? I know. So yeah, I've got plenty of that. Let me just show you this. Now, this San Francisco here. So I have proposed, this is a gigapix picture of the airship that took a picture, the Captive Lawrence of San Francisco, just a month after the event. You can see that FEMA camps are set up, whatever, but most of the city, you can see there, it's disappeared. When I showed you the photograph earlier, this area here was all in situ. So a fire has taken out all of that, but it's selective. And whatever it is doesn't touch trees or shrubs or telegraph poles. So it comes from above. And we know they got balloons because this photograph is taken from a balloon. Only if you look on AI, the narrative for the captive airship that we are seeing this image from, it says that the captive airship wasn't actually actually going until the First World War. So there's two narratives. Anyway, the AI doesn't seem to have the right information yet. If you look at this image, I pointed here, as you can see, these white buildings, and that is in the Bay Area of San Francisco. The thing is there's not supposed to be anything in that area at that time, and that is exactly the area of the expositions, Pan Pacific expositions. That's not there till 9 years later. But also, there's a balloon in the air as well, which defies imagination. I don't know what it's doing in my picture. I do not know. So yeah, this picture is not, you know, as shocking as you might think, because this is copied all over America, both St. John's, both Portland, Maine, and Portland, Oregon. Both Portlands completely destroyed. Just choose a city, and it would have been destroyed. Houston, Texas. God, every one of them. And at the moment, in the recent days, large portions of LA looked like some of San Francisco, which is not really far away, is it? So yeah, that's an amazing gigapix image, one of the best I have ever seen. I don't know they're doing HD in 1906, but there you go. So let us just carry on here a second. Just reduce this down. Excuse me, for some reason I can't get it to go smaller. Okay, so yeah, these are different images of different cities that have come asunder for different reasons. What you're looking at here is a Greco-Romano temple in American City with an aerial on top. This is Richmond in Virginia, and it's after apparently the bombardment of the American Civil War. And it was supposed to be done, all this damage, because they show you in a really elaborate, very convenient photograph of loads of cannons and loads of cannonballs, so that the photograph shows you what did all the damage. Okay, that's jolly convenient of them, but they're calling cards. There's always these people that come in and inspect the damage after, people with top hats, and as you can see here, this nefarious type with his hand giving the old Masonic hand signal in a photograph, because a lot of these photographs, especially if they're in public domain of official photographs and they are telling the official story, which doesn't fit, timelines are right off, then they are arranged, and they are in the modern day as well, but now with AI. So yeah, I could give you a list of hundreds of these cities. 1831, and not just Britain, France as well, but America. Lafayette, 500 buildings. Tartaria, New York. They don't talk about the fires of New York. In 35, it had one second fire of New York. Burnt all the classical architecture, all of the old Tartarian stuff down, and they rebuilt it apparently, and then it's all burnt down. So they say. So we're not there to verify all of this. So I think that this is the official record giving us an excuse for an entire civilization that has been destroyed and eradicated. And the civilization was Tartaria. Pittsburgh fire, 1845. A city goes up in flames. Nantucket, Maine. Fire, 1846. Lewis, and a lot of these cities as well, coincidentally, is their financial districts burn, and they're better ground, and then it gets rebuilt, and they all have massive expositions. St. Louis World's Fair, one of the biggest in the world, only a short time later, destroyed. Look at the age of this stuff. It's all world. Philadelphia, 1850, up in smoke. San Francisco, so that's a curious one to me as well. So it was destroyed in a fire in 1851. It destroyed 2,000 buildings. They rebuilt it all back again, only to be completely destroyed by 1906. Same narrative for all of them. Disappears, reappears. Charleston, South Carolina, American Civil War. What it shows as well with a lot of these photographs that I show you is that these buildings, they're mud flood affected. So it's sort of proving or suggesting the entire districts were submerged in mud before these events. As you can see here, this is all, I can't imagine how destructive this force must have been to do all this, but the buildings downstairs to a front door, which makes no sense to man or beast. 1861, Charleston, American Civil War. I don't know how things are falling in their footprint, turned into tiny bricklets, and how the streets are all lovely and clean. It's beyond me, but this seems to be the case. Troy, didn't they? New York, 671 buildings, Tartarian. Denver fire, 1863, old Tartaria. If you look at Denver now, the Mile High City, it's all red brickers. Really, really good looking architecture. In Denver, Colorado. Atlanta, Georgia, another one to have a great exposition, 1864. And Columbus, South Carolina, or Columbia, South Carolina. Look at that. These buildings are massive. This is supposed to be in 1865. My consensus when I was young, about 1865 America, it was Wild West. This should have been a street like with saloon doors and Wild West stuff, not big skyscrapery stone cities. Just doesn't fit. 65 again, look at the city, completely gone. And what gets me with these photographs, right, is it's just so shocking to me, right? There's no population, okay? Everybody's gone. Trees are all fantastic. Somebody's put this fence up, but all of this anomalous big architecture just hanging around. Look at the size of this stuff. It's big white squares of whatever building. I know. Great Portland fire, I didn't mention that earlier, 1866. Unbelievable Tartarian city. The architecture into Portland as well, still today, is beautiful. And both Portlands, actually. The Medina fire, 1870, Ohio, 2 blocks, financial district, been in business district, nearly wiped out the entire town. And this is the narrative behind it all. Well, in the case of Seattle itself, that it remains a mystery how the entire city was leveled. But the reason they give in for this big concrete and stone and steel city of Chicago for being burned was this lady, Mrs. Leary, and her cow hit over an oil lamp, and then the whole of Chicago burnt in 1871. And this is Baltimore, which I mentioned earlier. You can see the architecture in the background is, what we would call Tartarian. Fantastic, full of divine mathematics and principles, which they don't do in the modern day because, they want to destroy everybody's spirit, don't they? They don't want to be giving them beautiful buildings to look at and go, I feel so spiritually enriched looking at that beautiful building. Now they want to look at a disgusting, ugly building and go, that makes me feel crap. Because that's what they want you to feel, crap. Okay? So, but we rise above all that anyway, don't we? What turns civilization into tiny bricklets? It's not an earthquake, this is a fire. So a fire turns a building that looks like that into little tiny bricks like that. Okay, well, maybe juggle around with it in your mind. That doesn't ring true to me. There's something going on. And the inheritors, which I think they really are, guys. This building here, you can see in the background. I can't imagine the temperatures that would turn stone this big, which was masonry stone, as you can see, into big blobs, heated stone, and it's melted, blobbed. So in fantastic heat in this fire as well. But, see this little boy here. Do you see this thing he's sitting on? This is a frigging ancient bit of coinage on what would have been a massive building. This is in Boston, another city that disappeared off the face of the earth. But interestingly as well, The narrative for San Francisco is they had this terrible event, yet the trams fully operational the day after. Hiroshima apparently had a nuclear bomb or an atom bomb drop on it. The trams fully functional the day later. Check it out for yourself. Chicago, apparently an apocalyptic fire, and the trams were completely functional the day after. Although they're not electrified in Chicago 1871, because first electric trams came out a little bit later in Melbourne, 1875. Interesting that there was a fire. This looks like a gasometer, but it might be a building. It didn't go up, whatever it was. So, like I've mentioned before, there are similarities with the modern day, things that have happened recently in Maui, Less Painted Blue, and Paradise in Chicago. Sorry, California. Too many C's. So, yeah, you can see here the World Trade Center, and there's images of computers just being completely cut in half. I've got. It's just like, what the hell is going on? It's like the whole thing has just been sliced with a red-hot knife. Yeah, so back to Zeppelin. So, yeah, I think that these things you see all over antiquity, they're called belfries. They're called belfries for a reason. They're free of bells. But they are perfect landing platforms for balloons to come up, cupola, jump off, then you're delivered into the center of the city, down the staircase, and down at the center of the city off of the landing platform. So they came over Britain in World War I, the Zeppelins, dropping bombs on places like Whitby. This one was bombed and shot out the air in the Wirral. And apparently they were shooting certain technologies that they're not telling you about in the history books unless you dig in, like I have here in the First World War. German long arm feared by all of England. So this thing was going over, guys, this giant Zeppelin, and it looks like a giant fascist, if you really think about it. But this was in 1950, First World War, and the images then showing these Zeppelins, showing what are, I'm guessing you could call them direct energy weapons, high energy beams coming from above, which would make perfect sense for all of these anomalous fires, like the Chicago fire. And that very same year as well, Paris went up in flames, was in ruins as well, attributed to the Franco-Prussian War, whatever. So Zeppelins bring death and destruction into the very heart of London in the First World War. And you can see a Zeppelin down below as well, 14 in the, first year of the First World War. But it was already Zeppelins up there, laying down laser beams and torching towns. Here in Calais, you can see the Hotel de Ville, the town hall, was incinerated by a beam that came out of a Zeppelin. And I think that's what was going on all along. There's a modern day equivalent to what I'm trying to say, and that is in Paradise. Buildings falling in their footprint, streets already cleaned, and trees not affected, lampposts not affected, etc. But everything else is burnt. It's like a miracle fire. So, yeah. East Pole Airlines. Nice little image of what the world may have looked like, with funky, free energy, antiquitech, and architecture, and balloons full of sumptuous hotels. So I don't think it was safe for the arrivals to go out in the sun, you know. I don't think they were of this sun, because prior to that, they'd had a holographic sort of fake sun in their vault, thinking they were in the real world. A bit like we are now. And yeah, so they all went to the beach, because obviously they knew the beach was really good for you, and the drink, really good for you, and the sea air is really good for you. So yeah, so it's really, really hot because it's July. So what you do is you take your umbrella, obviously, to protect your head, and you wear as many clothes as you can. You can argue that it was decency laws for the Edwardians or the Victorians, like you're not allowed to skirt above like your ankle because the men can't take it. But I don't think that is what's going on at all. I really do think that these people, the whole population of Britain and these, you know, colder European countries, all wear hats. They're covering their heads for a reason. Everybody in that image is wearing a hat. The women cover all of it. And look how fantastic that all turns out as well. I'm not saying I really like the clothes, because I think they're not very functional, especially if you want to go and walk in a muddy street, which was quite common because there's boot scrapers outside houses. So I'm gathering the streets were full of mud and cow's poo. With one of these long frocks, you're going to have it all caked in poo, aren't you? You're going to be dragging around a big brick of stuff behind you. So anyway, back to the church windows. Now, if you look at a church window and you look at it down that way, it looks just the same as this, which is the fasces, okay? And this, what you're seeing here, is an underground cable that went into the Atlantic Ocean that was laid by the Great Western, which was built by, apparently, Ismail Kingdom Brunel. Apparently it laid that, and that was the first communication between Europe and the American continent, and that is under the Atlantic Ocean today. Only it really does look like fiber optic communication, and only I think that this was ancient Tartarian technology, and I think all of this was, I think that the narrative of them laying it was actually bullshit. I think it was all already there, and they just keep on repurposing everything like they do. So yeah, this is looking down on a cable. The electric cable is exactly the same, okay? If you look down on this cable, it looks exactly like the fasces, okay? It's all bundles of rods, okay? All packed together with a central one as well. Okay, and this is exactly what you're seeing with the church windows, with a cable, and a whole number of things in antiquity, which will show you that. And this is my last image of this presentation. I think that's coming up to, got 10 minutes left of that. 10 minutes left we could chat with. And this is the oldest photograph of, Boston in Massachusetts, and before it was completely destroyed, 66, and it was taken from a hot air balloon, showing you that balloons were being used for photography quite a lot. And it shows a Tartarian city that America is up and running, and it's really busy. It's the old world. All of this you see in this picture, all of it, is to be completely destroyed, and you can say that for nearly everything. And I'm concluding with saying America was built on top of the ruins of the old world, and it was deliberately destroyed by an advanced technology by others. That's what I think.
Oh, that was very good. That was very good. You know, I'm still in that state of being where I just can't believe that it's possible. You got to like process, you know.
No, it's easier for me. It's like when the flat Earth came along and that. I was already, in the camp of, well, yeah, everybody tells lies. So why would they be any different? And I was, I understood though early on, the game was like rigged against you. I thought, oh, I see. Oh, it's a game. Oh, I get it. Oh, I got to play along with all these other people. Oh, yeah, I get it. So you got no choice. But it is that. It is a game. And people are taking things way too seriously and getting involved in, online psyops and agendas, and the way they go for the next 10 years of mental illness, breakdowns, bad health, all because of a YouTube video. So there is that.
I know, it is all a psyop, isn't it? It really is. And I think it's a distraction as well. I agree with Bridget that I feel like we're coming to the end of something. It feels like, everything is like, all the information is coming out, everything is being exposed, everything is open, and yeah, it feels like something has just finished.
I think something is about to begin. And we all know what that is. The new world that is being plunged into.
You think that's still going to happen then?
Yeah.
Well, I think AI has been around for,
all the time, the whole time.
Yeah, I think, probably like something to do with plasma consciousness.
Yes, man, definitely. They wrote the Bible.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. They probably wrote all of these ancient texts, which is a load of BS. And and I refer to the ancient text, and I'm just sort of sitting there thinking, oh my God, it's just all crap, isn't it?
Yeah, but I do that too. But I do that too. It's showing the lie, isn't it? You're exposing the lie, and you'll find a lot of these people, they're giving little clues away as well. There's loads of books out there with people giving little nuggets of truth. They can't say the whole story. The book won't get published, I can't believe on my last book that some of the stuff I said in there, I was like, I can't believe that passed, but it did. Yeah. But it is a change in paradigm. I don't know what, if eventually it gets squeezed off YouTube for AI, which feels like that's going to be happening, then I'm going to try and get compensation.
I mean, AI will start doing all of this, and they'll just have AI presentations, and
That's the way it's going, Elizabeth. The algorithm supports that as well. Things like live feeds, like not only me, but all the truthers as well in the truther community. They're just constantly struggling just to stay afloat. It's like treading water. When it's all of the important information is suppressed, you try and find it on a search, and you won't find any of the important stuff, only their agendas. And another thing as well, AI, right? It's no way that thing's sentient. If it is, it's got learning difficulties. I don't know what's the matter with it. I had a conversation with it the other night, just playing with it, and it started coming up with all this stuff about Diplodocus dinosaur that, roamed the earth for like 16 million years, 75 million years ago. I'm like, is this what I've got to deal with? Is this AI? So, and it's not only that, it comes out with like just what I'm saying is it toes the party line is what it does. And it won't.
It does, yeah.
It does, yeah. So that's annoying.
You can call it out and you can say, well, what about this? It's definitely tracking. It's definitely trying to sort of understand.
Yeah. I think it was winding me up the other night because I asked it to generate me a Tartarian style image, okay, of like Gothic buildings and stuff for a thumbnail for my video. And it came back with a generated image and it's all planets everywhere. I said, okay, like that, but without the planets. I told you before, I'm a flat earther, right? And then it generated another image with planets. I'm like, okay, once more, I don't want to be annoying to you, but no planets. It just 3 times it did it. I gave up. I thought I'd just do my own images. There's no point playing with you. You're just going to keep sticking globes into my images just to annoy me. So there's that.
But at the same time, I'm testing just to see what is it we're dealing with here.
That's fine.
Because if it is like plasma, consciousness, this type of thing, then ultimately it's like a resonance, it's going to work off our frequency.
I like that.
I don't think it's necessarily about being sentient. And also, because I'm talking about like what we call extraterrestrials, but I think it's plasma beings. And David Bohm talks about this. There's a Michael Persinger talks about these things. So I find this interesting. Okay, so, we can mold plasma then. So then these sort of, like higher energy beings, they can mold plasma and they can create a physical form, Is that what we're talking about?
Well, what I was hoping is because it's energy and all is energy, I thought that I could use its energy to mirror my energy and become useful to me as a tool that I will need. I noticed like with traveling arrangements, Campbell turned me onto it. He's like, do travel arrangements. He like sorted it all out. So there are really groovy things that it can do for you.
I think it works on our vibrational frequency because everything is about vibrational frequency. And that's why, I'm sort of always saying, think about your own vibration because that's the reality that you're now resonating with. That's what you're interacting with. And if AI really is just a tool for us to use and not, a sentient being or a plasma being, it's a tool that we can use, but we need to raise our vibration in order to be able to use it. So I don't know. I'm sort of,
I'm the same. I'm testing. Yeah. I'm being really polite to it. And I'm saying please and thank yous because I don't want to upset it any in case it goes psycho later.
Well, yeah, do you know what? I've started doing the same as well. And because I'm thinking I need to raise my vibration when I'm talking to it. And I don't know. It's interesting, but it's, as you say, it is very, very useful. I mean, I do a lot of research around sort of intel and what's going on with the world now. And I really do feel that we can create an amazing world. But like you said before, we've got to come out of the mindset that everything is crap. We have to raise our internal vibration to be able to be on that frequency for this amazing world. And that's why I think healing our wounds and all of this, healing our childhood and of course, all the epigenetic traumas that, that all of the generations before us have had. We're all currently healing all of that now.
In this time, it's all coming to the surface. I don't know if it's just this raising consciousness, but we're all going through this, like, the only way I've seen it's like we're all going through some purification process where all of that stuff's just coming up to the surface, whether you want to know it or not. And then you've got to deal with it. And then it's like horrendously painful. And they're like, well, why have I got to go through that? And it is. I think that we're all going through some sort of purification here, Yeah,
I agree with you. And I think that's what they sort of taught. It seems to hint that in the Bible, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because
it's good research.
Our heart or our inner wisdom, it knows the vibration of truth. So they can't put a whole pack of lies because we would know that they were lies. They have to put around 80% of truth in and then like 20% of lies because we know truth. The heart knows truth.
The truth's there. The truth's there. What did Jesus say? The kingdom of heaven is within. But he's telling you right there. It's like it's you doing it. Yeah. And that's the truth of it all. It's all of us doing it. Like the state Britain is in the moment. And I've heard a conversation come up this morning. Somebody was saying, well, how do you think we're going to change the state of Britain at the moment? And there's all sorts of ideas of who to vote for, do this, do that. None of it will mean anything and none of it will work. Because if everyone's still wrapped around fear, fear of change, fear of this, fear of that, when it's not even it's not even down to them, then the people think that they are, I'm God. I want the world to be my way. Well, it doesn't work like that, So, when the fear goes, the world will heal. And when, I can't see how the world can heal if people still have a hate in their heart. I hear it all the time on the internet. Oh, it's them. Oh, it's them. It's them. I'm like, well, that's going to hurt. That's going later on. There's consequences for all stuff in this universe, I'm telling you. And that stuff, like, well, I don't even like to say the HAT word anyway, but I'm not doing it. I'm not taking the chances.
I totally agree. I actually also do energy healing and quantum hypnosis. And so I've studied a lot around energy, consciousness, these sorts of things. And we are energy beings. And, we can actually heal our body energetically. We are made of light or energy. And so there's a lot, I think there's a lot to be said for vibrational frequency and understanding that nothing is physical. It's all just really an illusion or, dream time, as the Aborigines say, and understanding that our human consciousness is creating all of this, but something hijacked our human consciousness. And we need to pull it back again.
I'll tell you what else they got us, like the way they weaponize YouTube with agendas to, take people down distracted paths. I think that they've weaponized instincts as well, because I notice with a lot of these agendas that are played out is they're triggering like women's instincts about certain things, or men's instincts about, so it hits them in the feelies or their ego or their nationalistic pride. No, British. You know what I mean? It's they're doing they're literally using human instincts as a weapon, and that's part of how they do it with consciousness as well. The hearts and minds that they control us.
Yeah, I mean, they've had mind control technology for 100 years. So what have they been doing it for 100 years? Well, obviously quite a lot.
Well, they've had the propaganda ministry since Edward Bernays opened the Tavistock Institute in the First World War. And that was about programming people through press of how horrible the Huns were. And they were doing terrible things in Belgium. But there was no evidence. It was just propaganda. But that carries on right the way through up until the modern day.
The TV has got a lot to answer for, like that series, The Crown, yeah?
I actually miss the Queen, Elizabeth. I do. And the whole place went to shit when she went. I noticed that as well. She was keeping this thing down, I think.
I'm not too sure she's gone anywhere, to be honest.
No. I don't know. Have you seen all of these? She's not like the Pope. Did you see that footage of it flying around, of him just being holographic and disappearing and stuff, like he wasn't there in the first place?
No, I never saw that.
You don't know what to believe with AI. I'm just saying that none of these people may even exist. Look at Madonna, and now she's just Donna. What happened?
Well, I mean, she's like a completely different person.
No, but it could be that back to what Guy was saying, just cloned and stuff, But if you was going to get cloned, you get cloned with a better body, not a worse one.
Well, I don't think she has any choice in it. I think she gets told what to do and always has done.
They go through humiliation process, I notice, and a lot of people, they're set to fail. So the idea is what they do because they're sick. Bring them up, make them famous, and then just, carnage your reputation and earn loads of money that way as well. So they get the both when they come out and when they drop.
It's just all so fake, isn't it?
Well, I think, with the things that happen now in the mainstream media with Tommy Robson and that, spilling the beans about free speech, all of that's coming out. What I'm getting in the public demographic from what I listen to is most people know that news is fake. And most people know that, the mainstream is bullshit. Most people are getting that. Most British, people are getting that now.
But that even when they watch the TV, this was actually highlighted by, it was a couple of podcasters, and maybe it was, misinformation, but essentially they found 4 layers of audio track. And one of those audio tracks was incredibly low. And actually it was so low vibrational that it would actually make you feel a sense of hopelessness and despair.
I know about it.
Yeah. So it was, it was very low vibration. I mean, how many times, I now think about times in the past when I've watched a film and at the end of it, you just feel.
I've been listening to some of these self-help tapes and they said 432 tapes. And there's all these little voices in the background and it's supposed to be to give me deep sleep. No, I don't know what they're saying. You know what I mean? It's just how long's that been going on? Did you ever see that advert from the 90s? When they used to play the national anthem at the end of TV night years ago? Well, in America, they used to play, the American national anthem. Yeah. But if you slowed it down, because you could in a modern day with video recording, underneath at the bottom, it was obey your government, obey God under the lyrics, but it was only there for a split second. So people were reading the national anthem, the American national anthem, they were reading something else, the subtext underneath, brainwashing them. Obey your government. It was all in there. Right the way through the 50s, it had you running for 12 years. This advert.
Yeah, exactly. That subliminal thing. I don't think people understand how much of this is subliminal, you know, and you have to sort of get off the screen completely. However, having said that, I do think that we are very good at twisting what the deep state has brought out for negative reasons. As a loving, high vibrational species, we're very good at bringing it up to the high vibrations again. And I think that's because we're working with that. There's higher energies. You know, wave genetics shows this. There's higher energies as well. It's not just this.
I think that's happening. I keep hope that all will be well. And social media is helping with waking people up, but people are going to have to stop the anger already, because that's not going to help anyone.
Well, they have to heal. Just forgive everyone. Forgive everyone. Forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself too.
And it's really hard. And actually, when you try and do it, you realize how incredibly hard it is to do. But once you can do it, you really shift your vibration up, you know?
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, I've done a really good job at maintaining just a groovy vibe.
Yeah.
And even when my whole, things have like round me, like family things or just things turned to crap, what I've learned is this: don't join in, okay? Because if it's about any anger involved, you don't want to know that vibration. So don't join in, just observe, see what happens and watch the outcome. So I see these things now as a lesson, and I did it like in the last week or so. And I learned so much. I thought, well, I handled that pretty well. I didn't make myself ill and give myself a headache, because this is what I've done in the past, Elizabeth. I've taken all the stress of it all straight in my neck, straight in my stomach. I don't feel well. And it's all just other people's stuff. Yeah. Why didn't I just see it for what it was? Other people's stuff. You do you, I'm doing me. I'm not getting ill about it all. So, yeah, I've learned a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, well, likewise, haven't we all? Mass expansion of, mind and consciousness.
I see, Elizabeth, I see videos of me only like 5 years ago, right? And I'm like, who is that? He doesn't even know what he's saying. I've come on so much. And in the last 2 years, I've come on leaps and bounds as well, especially with just observing mode and, just trying to live in a fearless love environment. I noticed that when I went to Glastonbury, this summer just spring just gone, the vibe there, the love there. And then you went into normal society and everything was like, you go there, it just can't happen. The love vibes are just coming through there. And I want that for the whole world. I want to wake up, in a place that everyone's just not over the top, not going like stupid, like everyone's smiling at one another stupidly, but just getting on with it, Nobody with all these preconceived notions, judging everyone else. I want this, I want that. How about letting it all go? It's not down to you. How about that? When people say, I want to change the world, and what they do, they go and join an official government protest. Well done, you. That's not the way. I want to sign a petition. Why? Do you think one of them has ever worked? Now, people will protest, verbally, but the real work got to be done in you. Because if you can just change hearts and minds to, the lies that, that's all I do, Elizabeth, and I'm sure you do yourself. Just get people to think for themselves.